Welcome again to Joe Stunner Boxing. Liam Paro makes the maiden defence of his IBF super lightweight title against Richardson Hitchens. Hitchens is undefeated, 18 wins with 17 KOs, no draws and no defeats. And Paro was also undefeated in 25, no draws, 15 KOs. And, you know, Paro he's 28 years old, he's a southpaw, so he's pretty much in his prime. But he was brought along, I think, very well up to the point of fighting for the world title. The tactics, the way he was sort of nurtured towards the title shot suggested that they didn't just want to win it, they wanted to keep it. Didn't want to just fight for the title, they wanted to win it and build up a legacy, which is always good to see. And why do I say that? Because Parro, Australian, he's from Queensland. I think he's from Brisbane, actually. Don't quote me on that. When he, even though he was brought along very well, when he got to his world title fight, which was against Subriel Matias, who was considered at the time to be a real killer, who was, making all sorts of people, previously undefeated fighters as well, quit. He was this relentless, sort of chopping, threshing machine, and fighters just couldn't handle the pressure. Parro was an absolute revelation in that fight. He was able to slip and slide. He stood pretty much in the pocket for a lot of the time and just used angles to offset Matias, make him constantly reset, not allow him to put any kind of sustained pressure on Parro. That's not to say it was easy for Parro. It wasn't. He didn't have cuts and everything. He was marked up a fair bit. Lots of superficial abrasions and but he definitely won the fight. I mean, quite clearly he won that fight. And he won it in Puerto Rico. Now, this fight with Hitchens that's coming up, this is on Saturday. This is also in Puerto Rico, and I can only assume they're going to try and match the winner, maybe with Matias again. Matias did have a connection with Matchroom. I'm not sure if that's still going on, because since losing to Parro, he came back with a fight last month in November. That was also in Puerto Rico. It was a 2-round stoppage of a guy called Roberto Ramirez. But is there going to be a rematch between Parro and Matias if Parro can get through Hitchens, or maybe they'll match Hitchens with Matias? Yeah, it's an option, isn't it? Because that 140 division, there's lots of potential matchups. But if you look at Parro's previous record leading up to the Matias victory, he stopped Montana Love in 6 rounds, and that was a year ago. It was December 2023. Montana Love, very sort of, what's the word? Very ostentatious, very theatrical. Was considered to be a bit of a prospect. He's 29, so he's not particularly young. He's not old, but he's probably in his prime now. He got stopped by, like I say, a year ago by Parro and hasn't fought since. But prior to that, he was disqualified in 6 rounds by Steve Spark, another Aussie. And that was a fight he was definitely expected to win. So he's got a win over Ivan Baranchek. That was a pretty good win, but he was considered to be someone who they were, guiding towards stardom, and he came off the rails. And he came off the rails not just by being disqualified by Steve Spark, but by being actually stopped by Liam Paro. So that was a good win for Parro. And prior to that, he blew away another Australian called Brock Jarvis, who was undefeated at the time in 20. And Jarvis, I always thought, was an accident waiting to happen. He fights with his face, basically. And he made that mistake against Parro, and Parro just smashed him out of the way, smashed right through him in the first round. It took 2.5 minutes, but one-way traffic. I mean, it's almost fistic suicide the way Brock Jarvis fights. Prior to that, it was all, fights in Australia against fighters. I'll be honest with you, they're fighters I haven't heard of. But I think a couple of them were undefeated. I mean, at domestic level, and there's nothing wrong with fighting at domestic level when you're on the up. Parro was proving himself to be a very, very good fighter. Could he make the jump to world level? Evidently so, because when he got his chance, beat Montana Love, then he beat Matias. No one expected him to beat Matias. I don't remember anyone saying they thought he would win. I certainly didn't. I thought Matias would stop him, but no, proved us all wrong, which is fair play to the man. Now, Richardson Hitchins, he's probably, if he's not in his prime, he's very close to it. He's 27, orthodox fighter, whereas Parro is a southpaw. He almost came unstuck in his last fight with Gustavo Lemos. A lot of people thought Lemos won. It was a unanimous decision. Yeah, I can see why people thought Lemos won. It wasn't his best performance. He will openly admit that. Prior to that, he fought Jose Zepeda, won a unanimous 12-round decision. That was, I can't remember the exact score, so it's pretty much a shutout. He won most of the rounds. He's only got 7 KOs in 18 wins, so he would say, well, I don't try to knock him out. I try to box him, box, which is fine. But I always think at world level, you need a bit of pop just to keep the guy off you. And make no mistake about it, although Paro he likes to counterpunch, he's not, like I say, even against Matias, his tactics were so good against Matias. It was a real terrific performance. He was able to sort of stand, within punching range and just offset Matias. And I've got a feeling that Paro is going to do the same thing to Hitchins, because Hitchins is a boxer rather than a puncher, certainly. He's tall, he's 5'10", quite tall for the weight. But you know what? I can't get that Lemos fight out of my head. And I know you should never say, well, you're only as good as your last fight, because it's a load of crap. But, he's got a win over... He's performed much better than that. He got a win over John Bowser, I think the guy's name was, who was undefeated at the time. That was a 10-round decision, unanimous, very, very wide decision. I think he scored a couple of knockdowns against Bowser. And he's beaten other guys. Yomar Alamo was the guy's name, who only had 1 defeat, I think. He forced him to retire. So Hitchins is more of that, water on rock guy, wear you down, doesn't necessarily try and knock you out one punch because he hasn't got one punch power, but he doesn't try to knock you out. He'll try to box, look for opportunities, land his punches, get out. He is quite offensive-minded, but against Lemos, he almost came unstuck, didn't he? Now, Paro seems to like the offensive guys. He flattened Brock Jarvis in one round when Jarvis came straight at him, showing that he does have a bit of pop. He contained, I think is the word, Subriel Matias terrifically well. And Matias is an extremely good front-footed fighter. So if Hitchins tries to come forward and put the heat on Paro, I only see one winner, and that's Paro. If they try to box, if Hitchins tries to draw Paro forward and tries to, counterpunch a guy who himself is not averse to counterpunching, then I think what we'll find is we might find a boring fight. Can he do it, Hitchins? Yeah, he's a good boxer, decent boxer. I see him winning rounds, certainly. But if I'm being honest, the only person I can't really get away from a points win for Liam Paro, and that's going to be my prediction. I think, thinking about what I've seen of both fighters, and I've seen a fair bit of both fighters. I've seen more of Hitchins than I have of Paro, actually. But I just think that Paro's confidence will also be sky high after that Matias fight, rightly so. And he seems to have a really great team that get the tactics right. And they will have studied Hitchins. They will know what they're doing with this guy. So I think we'll see Hitchins winning rounds. It might be relatively close. It might be a sort of 115, 113, 116, 112. That would be maybe a bit wide. I think I'm going to go with Paro to win on points. He's also got the southpaw stance. And how will Hitchins get on with that? I don't know. It's a good question. Anyway, what do you think? I know we got some of you Australian fellas and ladies. You watch the channel. So how good do you think Paro is? Because, like I say, I think he's pretty much in his prime, and he needs those big fights now. Now is the time to strike while the iron's hot and get those big fights. And this is a good one to get Richardson Hitchins' scalp on his record, an undefeated fighter who was being groomed as a future champ. That would be a very, very good scalp to have. And also Paro, let's not forget, the guy's got great mental strength. To go to Puerto Rico and beat Matias in front of his own people, that was very impressive. And even when Matias was having some, marginal success in their fight, Parro stayed cool. Parro stayed, very much on it and stuck to the game plan. I was very impressed, not just with Parro, but with his whole team, to be honest with you. I think the corner work was fantastic. And so, yeah, I'm going for Parro on points. But if you disagree or if you agree, leave a comment below. Tell me why you think A or B is going to win. Let me know. And if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button because it helps us out, and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Thank you very much. As always, looking forward to reading your comments, and bye for now.